right down to business. All right, let me go back to sharing the PowerPoint slides here. I hope that everybody can see the PowerPoint slides. If you just want to put in the chat box, yes, you can, 1 or 2 names. If you can't, please let me know. So this is my contact information right here. I'm facilitating it, but I do have a co-facilitator, Emily Sussman, and I may ask for a couple other people if they have like maybe a business Zoom account that allows you to stay access open longer to definitely help, because depending on how time works with everybody, when we open and close it, I would like to ask in case if you need to share another Zoom link. Sometimes happen, like just right now, my Zoom link that I have for some reason was invalid, so I have to resend it. But either which way, this is my contact information. You can find me professionally on LinkedIn. I highly encourage you to connect with me on LinkedIn. I share a lot of good stuff about CRC, vocational rehab, helping people get jobs, and of course, putting some practical stuff on there. With that, this is my phone number. Don't worry, it's not my personal number, but it's a good work cell. If you text me at it, just let me know who you are, saying, hey, this is Kaya from Broward, Texas. Hello from Texas. And just want to talk about CRC stuff. If you call me, I will answer. If I don't answer within a day because I'm working, then you will definitely get an answer before the end of today. And then, of course, my email address. All right. With that, of course, everything is studied and tailored towards the CRC exam itself. But this is not facilitated, owned, or endorsed by the Commission on Rehabilitation Counseling. None of this. And I'll go to the disclaimers here shortly. For now, until they put a new book out, we are studying to something called the Red Book. And I have the links in the slides so you can find it, and I would strongly encourage you to purchase it. Now, don't just get the book itself. The book sometimes also has a digital access where you can access it on the computer, and I will show you. And with that, being a determination to want to be a certified rehabilitation counselor and wanting to help others with disabilities is a very commendable thing for anybody to get into. And so having that CRC is going to show you with your credentials. That doesn't mean you're no less than anybody else here. That doesn't mean that if you've been working in the field for the last 10, 15 years that you're not certified. No, that this means is that you set yourself aside from the majority. And that's what a lot of us are here for. Okay, and just so you're aware, there you go, El Paso, Texas. Bam. So, couple of disclaimers. This group is not going to guarantee you to pass. This group will not guarantee you to pass, and I have a good example. Of the last group that came in for the spring CRC, I want to say there was about 4 to 8 test takers for CRC, and out of that, 4 of us passed. About half or maybe just a little bit more if I'm not mistaken, but I got to double check the numbers. But it's not going to guarantee you pass because you yourselves are ultimately responsible for your own commitment and time to study. This here is for us to get together, discuss the major topics, maybe go into more details about certain things that we could see in the exam. And thank you, Emily. You got it. And it's going to be an ongoing project with that. But nonetheless, you are committed to your own time and study. I didn't get to where I was at without the people in here, which we'll recognize here in the next couple of slides. But at the same time, I also had to put many other things aside to make sure that I can pass it or at least take it. So, with that, of course, this group's designed for professionals like you and me to help one another and grasp a better knowledge of CRC, because more than likely than not, that red book that I was telling you about here, the majority of the answers are going to be in there. Now, recently in the Facebook group, somebody sent a link that I thought was a really excellent study guide, and I will send that out between tonight and tomorrow. And it includes newer information that was not on the red book that I found on the actual CRC exam. And I'm wondering if those may be the experimental questions that they talk about, which we'll discuss here shortly. With that, all the material and lectures and information are not funded or in part by any specific agencies, myself, or anybody. So there's no endorsement. I'm not getting paid for this. I'm not getting paid for this. We're all volunteers here. Okay. We're all volunteers here learning. I'm not earning a single dime. I'm literally giving my time to help others to achieve this goal of obtaining a CRC. With that, we don't have a funding pot. So any materials that we suggest is a recommendation. You don't have to get it if you don't want to, but I would highly encourage you to get it, because it's just going to help make things easier to study, whether you get a digital access, whether you go in online, whether you go through Quizlet. Any study material is better than no study materials. With that, I'm not representing my institution. My school is right now is the University of Texas at El Paso. I'm a UTEP Miners, go Miners. But I'm not here representing my school. I'm here representing myself as a certified rehabilitation counselor or a CRC holder. And with that, that includes everybody else here. So there's no one school or one institution better than the other because we're all professionals pursuing the field of rehabilitation or already working in it. With that, everything contributed to this group, again, is solely voluntary and has 0 mandates. However, the more you contribute, the more you ask questions, the more you give your time to study and learning this, the better chances that you're going to pass. So if you have any questions about the disclaimer, my ears are open and you can feel free to get off the mic if you have any other questions or concerns. No? Okay. All right. With that, my co-facilitator being Emily Sussman, I'm going to give her an opportunity to talk before we end it. She also does something for us called mindfulness meditation, which really helped me right before I got into the exam and then after I got into the exam. And I'm going to share a story with you here in a moment about that. So, and she'll share a little bit more about that near the end of the slide, but I'll give her that opportunity to talk. With that, I had to give you guys a new Zoom link update. So let me go ahead and just paste that. That's the same thing, but basically that's a Zoom meeting. This is the passcode ID, which the passcode ID should be really CRC before, but I'll double check that. No biggie, we'll get that fixed up and then that should be good to go. But I'll fix that link up. But anytime we're gonna do the meeting, it's gonna be in this room for the most part, unless for some reason we cannot, then I will ask somebody out of this group to share a Zoom for us so we can get here to go because I'm only one person, okay? Now, just to kind of put this into perspective about how hard the CRC exam was. Just a little bit about myself. I am a disabled combat veteran. I served twice in Afghanistan. With that, I never intended to leave in the military. I was going to do 20 years, but for me and my faith, the Lord had other plans for me. It was by chance that I got into this field of vocational rehab, and I started my graduate program in May of 2020. And thank you. And with that, it's been my own long journey. So, and I share this because the day that I went to go take my CRC exam, the angry army, anxious guy came out of me, and I was a Karen. Okay. The day that I went to take the exam, I use accommodations. I did request for accommodations, which I do have a point of contact if you need to get your accommodations are done. Her name is Jennifer Marsu. She sits at the board for CRC. I'll share with you a little more later via email. I have her contact. She helped me to get my accommodations, but the day that I went to go test for accommodations, I was doing it online. And as compared to going into a facility like some of our counterparts in here went to, when I went online, I was informed prior to taking the exam for Pearson Review that my accommodations were going to be there. The day I showed up to do the exam on my computer, I cleared everything else off my desk. I didn't have no background. It was completely barren. And when I was looking at the cover page, I was under the impression that I didn't have my accommodations because it said one thing. And because I was already anxious the night before, one of my family members was hospitalized, so I was already up late. So I was dead exhausted. And when I thought my accommodations were met, I pretty much blew up on the proctor. I flat out blew up on the proctor. I was very angry. I was like, where's my accommodations? Where's my X, Y, and Z? Where's all my things? It was bad. Like, if you can think about it, bad thing, I was pretty bad, you know. What really set me off was when the proctor said there was nothing that they can do. And they said I needed to take the exam and then talk to customer service afterwards. And that just lit my fuse in a heartbeat. Most people here that know me probably never seen me lit a fuse before, but when you're dead exhausted and tired, you're about to go take a big exam like this that you paid a lot of money into, it'll change your person. The key moral of the story is make sure that if you need anything planned and prepared for you, make sure it's done in advance, make sure you have the right documentation, and more importantly, make sure you rest before you take the exam. Because if not, you're going to stress out and you're going to blow up and it's not going to be fun. I was very angry through the whole exam. I was a very terrible Karen. I was truly a Karen. And I was just angry, grouchy along the way, but yet I passed. I don't know how I passed, but I passed. Actually, it's through the script that I passed. So with that though, when you get to take your exam, whether you're going to retake it or this is going to be your first time taking it, make sure you go in there with the utmost confidence. Don't be exhausted. Don't be like me. I say if you're going to be tuned to request the accommodation, when I talked with Jennifer Marsu, she says you need it in by April 30th. So if you're planning to take it in July, the best time to start doing it is now. Because if you're not in school, if you've been out of school for a couple of years, it's going to take some footwork and time to get your accommodations up and ready. And I'll send out that, I'll forward that email out to you, Walker, and everybody else so they can see that. So that way you can get that started. And it's not too hard. As long as you talk to the right people, it's not too hard. As long as if you need that, you can get it. For everybody else though, make sure you breathe. Don't be like me and do some very last minute cramming the night before the exam, and make sure your family is healthy. Because I went in there as an exhausted person, already tired, having just come back from the, had a family member come back to emergency room. So I was already stressed out and then going to take this exam. So it was not easy. And, but moving forward, plan in advance, plan now, make sure that week that you take the exam. And this is one thing I can say helps me. Even though I'm working right now, it's not quite in the field that I want to get into, but it's related. I made sure for myself, and I don't know how your company is, I don't know how you're able to work. I made sure I booked myself a whole week off. And this was during spring breaks. I booked my whole week off of spring break from my work, my other life, and I pushed everything aside to make sure that I had that full study time to do practice questions, read materials, and lecture before I took the exam. My recommendation is make sure you set a dedicated time or give yourself within at least those 2 weeks of that free time to study where you're not focusing on work, you're not focusing on everything, you're only focusing on the exam itself. So when you take it, you'll have enough information to pass it. And I say this with confidence because one of my other counterparts who did the one of our PowerPoint slides, which I'll introduce you in a moment, his name's Andrew, and he did the same thing. We both said, let's take a week off from work, study it, and then take it. And I think that helped too. So, but however your studies habits are, however your studies habits, I'm just sharing you my testimony and how I got my CRC. So, okay. With that, this is my list of collaborators that helped during the very first time this whole group came about, which started really in January, second week of January. It started with Emily Sussman, being our group facilitator. She is our co-facilitator here with us, and she will talk about a little bit of her mindfulness meditation, which is very helpful. Emma Giddens, she's a lecturer, and she's pursuing her national counselor examination. So rehabilitation counselors and mental health counselors share very similar work. We share a lot of similar counseling principles. The only difference is that we're rehabilitation counselors, we focus on the medical and the medical disabilities. But it's ultimately the same stuff. But she had the opportunity to lecture. Cassandra Williams, she's a senior vocational rehabilitation counselor in Illinois. She's been in the job for a very long time. She's extremely smart and very smart about her work and knows her stuff. And she definitely helped out. Rose, and forgive me, I do not want to mispronounce your last name, Rose. I believe she still is a student lecturer in pursuit of CRC. She did a really good presentation, which I have because I'm compiling everything together. Andrew Bialdry, he does the private sector for rehabilitation, so like the workman's comp. And him and myself, we took it around the same time for CRC, and of course, we both obtained it. Margaret, who's in here right now, she has her camera on. She has beautiful plants behind her. She does she's a certified employment support professional in New York. So she works with people with disabilities and is like the subject matter expert of Social Security. Like, I love how you did that lecture. I still have it, so thank you. She's scheduled to do her CRC. Sarah Hollow, I believe she's also a student, and she's a rehabilitation counselor in pursuit of the CRC. Raja Bhatia, which I didn't see her come in today. She also took it back in October, and she decided to push her CRC for July. but she also contributed a lot to the program itself too, as far as the study groups and slides. And then Gabby Lacuna, she's a former classmate of mine. She graduated before me, but she did she didn't get her CRC yet. So she's supposed to sit in July, and she did a really good presentation on the crisis and trauma counseling. So with that, I made this here to say, it wasn't just myself doing all this work. It was a team of us, and it was a group of people and various professions, various levels and skills contributing to this. And the ones that are here today, I'm going to ask you to contribute. Fortunately, we have a lot of the presentations and stuff here, but I'm going to ask you to chime in, be an expert in areas that you're good at, talk about it. And if you even share some examples for us to learn, that's just going to help us to become better in our career field. Okay. For anybody of these previous current lecturers, that I'm not going to ask them to lecture. They've already did enough. So, plus I did have the recordings. So you can always go back and look at the recordings and see what it is that they talked about. And then if you want to change and add it, you're more than welcome to. So to kind of get started, because I'm not talking about me, and again, I appreciate everybody who contributed to this here. I want to know about you, the new faces, the ones that are going to take it again. So in the chat box, what I'm going to ask you to do for the next 2 to 3 minutes is you mention your name, you mention where you're from, but if you can do me a favor, let me know what your job profession is and why you want your CRC. That will definitely help appreciate it, and we can learn from one another. So for the next couple of minutes, go ahead and share a little bit about yourself in the chat box, and then I will share a couple of that, announcing them out loud. And don't worry, it's just us. They're not being graded, not being nothing. Okay, it's just us. So. And if you want to get off mic, you're more than welcome to get off mic as well. And share about yourself, who you are, and why you want your CRC. Okay, so Crystal, you're an you're an ADA specialist with previous VRC experience with the Texas workforce to be pursuing a CRC to become a vendor. All right, I appreciate you. Thank you for one through the Texas Workforce Commission. Awesome. Hi, Suni. You're a VR counselor in Arkansas's Rehab Services, and you're working on your master's in attendance CRC. Awesome. You already got the footwork experience in there. You already got a team you're working with, so you have an upper hand among some of us who may not have that opportunity to work right now at the moment in a VRC role. So welcome. Another one from Cassidy from Arkansas is VR Services, Rehabilitation. Thank you. Walker's a pre-employment specialist with Georgia Voc Rehab. He works with students with disability and pursuing a master's in CRC. I appreciate you working with students today. My heart goes out hearing what's happening with a lot of these school shootings and everything. It's such a terrible heartbreaker. So I commend you for working with students even today. Even if you're just doing counseling or related role, I mean, you're still kind of risking yourself. So I appreciate that. Thank you, Walker. Okay, from Hunters, you're changing careers into rehab counseling, and you work with young adults and disabilities like yourself. I appreciate your disclosure on that. Cassie, she's been in the field of CRC for a while as a rehab counselor. She was, okay, so about Cassie, I'm going to mention in here, and if she wants to talk about herself, she was grandfathered in. That's how long she's been working in the field. So again, she comes with a wealth of knowledge. And thank you, Cassie. Kiati, you're a recent graduate student and you want to work as a disability coordinator. Thank you so much for wanting to work with people with disabilities. I appreciate you. And congratulations on graduating. Illusion, UTEP MRC class of 21, combat veteran. I thank you so much for your service. Go Miners. TDO for Substance Use VRC in Virginia. You have an offer for CJ at the Texas Workforce Commission. Previously ERC and programs manager nonprofit. Oh, good job, Illusion. Good job. Hi, Brianna Welch. Graduate with a master's last May, and you're trying to attain your CRC. You work for Project Search. That's a good institution, and still a trainer working with young adults and disabilities. Nahal is from Southern Illinois University, Carbondale. So Nahal, why do you want to become a CRC holder?
Well, good question. I am currently working as faculty at Northern Illinois, and you know, when I got my doctoral degree in rehab counseling, I had no idea what CRC was, to be honest, because I'm coming from a clinical psychology background. So working as faculty, I think it's you know, first it gives me some, to be honest, some prestige as faculty teaching rehab students, you know, and I think it just gives me a lot of more information when it comes to advising master's students who are going to take the CRC soon.
Good, good. So you want to make sure you're modeling what you're teaching in part of that. And I appreciate you as an educator teaching the college work. So thank you so much for sharing that. Awesome. Welcome, welcome. And then and so I'll take that most people put their information in. Okay, Jay Bahorn. Or if pardon me if I mispronounce your name, I am terrible with names. That's why I tell everybody, call me Kenny. My last name is pretty cheap, but call me Kenny. With that, you're a VR counselor with Georgia Vocational Rehab and a recent graduate. Congratulations in clinical rehab counseling. So you work with the general population, but for the most part, you do work with people with disabilities. So you have that privilege. Awesome, awesome. And with that, as everybody continues to share themselves, I just want to say thank you. As you can tell, we all have a passion or wanting to work with disabilities. We want to improve in our profession for some prestige. And even more importantly, you know, we like to help other people, whether you're mental health, clinical research, disability, student, we want to help somebody. And that's really what this profession is about. So whether you do an LPC or a CRC, it's ultimately the same thing. With that, okay, Shakisha, you're a crisis mental health therapist. Thank you so much. You graduated from Wayne State University's rehabilitation program. So you're in pursuit of both the CRC and LPC. I hope to get an LPC soon myself. And you work with veterans and adults with disabilities. So, and you want to work in the VR side once you obtain your CRC. Good, good. So this is just going to help you. And there are a lot of doors to opportunities with a CRC. There's a big demand for us. And it does set us apart from a lot of our counterparts when we have that, because we are subject matter experts in a matter of speaking when we obtain it. So thank you everybody for sharing that. It's good to get to know everybody here. Thank you. So with that being mentioned, so with myself, you know, like I said, I'm graduating with a master's in rehabilitation counseling. With that, I have a background in psychology research. So I used to do a lot of the research for substance abuse and mental health. I did a lot of stuff with seeing students underprivileged students working to obtain PhDs. So basically they were in one of our scholarship programs called Building Scholars. And the end goal of that, of course, is for these underprivileged minorities students to obtain PhDs and of course bring money to the schools or institutions where they go to in research. And UTEP right now is definitely, I think, one of the top 5 schools. Yeah, top 3 or 5 schools for research funding through some of that program. So with that, if you look at my LinkedIn profile, you'll see my track record history too. But I appreciate everybody sharing with that. And it's good to know that we all share something in common. So this is a group. And if you remember, whether you're a group facilitator or a co-facilitator, we are still a group nonetheless. So therefore, this next slide here to ask about is when should our study sessions occur? So when we first did this, it was kind of just a word of mouth to see what majority said. This time, I'm going to do a little bit formal. So I'm going to put the link here in the chat. And I would really encourage you, please, everybody that's in here, and even the ones that couldn't make it today are going to vote, what days and times we should do the study sessions. Now, key thing, how this group works so far is that we meet twice a week. One day out of the week is a formal lecture, like we're recording. And I'm about to sneeze, excuse me. And the other section, the other lecture, not the lecture, but the other time is just a study group time where we can study as a group. put things together. Hey, I found a good study material. Do you want to go through flashcards, X, Y, and Z? But we have to meet twice a week. That's the one thing we're going to commit to, is committing to twice a week. I understand if there are days you might not be there, but if you're going to be either a guest lecturer or if you're going to contribute something, I do encourage you to be there. Okay. So with that, let me go ahead and put the survey link in the group chat. So like that, you have it. And then what should happen, actually, let's make sure this works before I do it. Come on. Get verification. It's going to take you to a page. It should look just like this. So when you answer it, you can pick as many as you want, but only pick 2. So 2 days out of the week you want to meet. And then I put 3 weekday times and then 4 weekend times. So only pick 2 from up here and 2 from down here when you do this voting. And at the end of the session and by tomorrow, based on the majority, that's when we're going to commit to the dates and times we're going to meet for the CRC group. I will not change it. Last group was Thursdays and Sundays, but I would like to see from this new group here what days you all would like to meet. And if you have any questions and have any issues accessing the forum, please let me know. And that's so weird. Let me just fix this real quick. There we go. See if that link works. Now I'm gonna try this down here. So please answer it. And then there, that should work now. All right. With that, when it comes to the lecture sections, I try not to go past an hour and a half max. However, there may be some material that's more content heavy than the others. So there may be a section where it goes up to 2 hours. You're free to come and go as you want. I'm not going to say you have to sit there during the whole session. If you only come for 15 minutes, fine. Just know that when we do some of the lecture sections, those are going to be recorded. For the study group sessions, those are not recorded. Meaning we're going to go through some quiz questions, test taking skills, you name it, but those are not going to be recorded. But when it comes to stuff like this, when we're doing a PowerPoint slide, they will be recorded. Okay. With that too, I'm going to include in here, because I didn't include it yet. There will be days for mindfulness meditation. And again, I'm going to let Emily Sussman talk on that near the end. So like that, she can share about it, what she does. And then based on the statistical results there, what days that we're not in session that we can do that. And if you want to do a non-recorded session and say, you know, let's just do a study day session of mindfulness meditation for the first 10 minutes. We can do that. We can definitely do that. It's going to help. It's up to you. Okay. So as you're doing those quizzes, as you're doing the survey for me here, so I can see when we're going to meet and the dates and times. And again, just pick 2 days out of the week you want to meet, pick 1 weekday and 1 weekend. Now, recommended materials. Again, none of this is endorsed. I'm not paying for your material. I pay for my own stuff. I pay for my own CRC cards. I pay for my own things out of pocket. So it's up to you to pay for your stuff out of pocket. But when we do these sessions, though, we're going to be teaching to this book. Until the newer version comes out, we're going to teach to this one. This is what helped many of us grasp the material. It is very comprehensive. Even the commission themselves recommend the red book, so use the red book. And if you get the one online through Springer Publishing, you also get a digital access. So you got the hard book on hand, and you can have the digital book on hand. And I'm going to show you real quick the digital book. I believe I bought mine through Amazon. I don't remember. Do y'all see me sharing the web page for the Springer Connect? Okay, good. What I like about this book when it's online is I have the mock exam that I can use, and I can go to any section that I want. on the online book. Hard book, of course, you can always download a hard book. And it breaks it down by itself, puts everything comprehensively together. It has tables that you can use. And of course, if you want to print it out, you can print it out as a PDF. So, and you can print out for yourself and for your friends and others. But what I like about it though, is that if I need to recall something real quick and just read up a little bit about it, say 1973, it's going to bring me straight to there on the digital access. That's why I liked it, because I took my test online, I studied it online, so I'm going to do it. And then I can say, oh yeah, Rehab Act was, oh, now I remember section 501 through 4, which by the way, I did see a question on this under CRC. So they will ask you, according to the Rehabilitation Act of 1973, section 502 enforced what? And it'll say stuff like that. But it's very comprehensive. Right now, this book only goes up to the WIOA Act of 2014, but I'm sure when the new book comes out, there might be some new stuff that comes in it. When I took my exam, there was even material that wasn't in the book that was on a CRC exam, and I have a feeling those were experimental questions. But nonetheless, it's very comprehensive. The tables, the figures, and everything comes from there. And then what I like about it is on the online access is you can practice some of these questions and they'll give you an answer right then and there. Up to you how you want to study it, but again, I encourage you to get the red book, because that's what that is what we studied too. So, and the book itself, you can get it on Amazon. Go to Amazon real quick. This is the what called Certified Rehabilitation Counselor. It paperback is $48.50, and I think it even comes with the digital access, so even cheaper. And it's the 3rd edition. Soon they're probably going to come out with a 4th edition. So, but on Amazon right now, it's $48.50. Not bad. You get the book and you get the digital access. Make life easy for you. If you're doing the NCE, I have this one as well. I bought it as a bundle, which I plan on reading that soon myself. But for the most part, there's that one. Also, there's the Amazon Metrics flashcards. I'm sure some of you are familiar with. I tried to use it. I still have the flashcards, but they are so daunting. Like I'll tell you one thing about these flashcards. They're there, they work, but they put a lot of information in it. Like, I think even more than the book, and it's great, but it for each sentence, there's a whole paragraph in the back, and they're hard to learn. But if that's what you want to use, you can use it as well. Another tool that I found helpful, and this came from the Commission of Rehabilitation Counseling site, was the prep cards. Was to the CRC University. Okay. And I got I still have them, and we can use them on the weekends if you want to do, or whenever we do our study sessions, our group studies, but they have the prep cards, and they worked really well for me. So let me see, CRC prep cards, log in, but I paid for it out of my own pocket. Still have some, and they break it down by sections. So say you want to learn about healthcare disability management, you can start here, and then they break it down. And however you want to study it, so forth. So there's different ways to learn, there's different modalities, but whatever tool is going to work for you, that's what you can use. And this will really help you too to get a grasp, especially right before you take the exam, just quick refreshers on a few things. This is really good. Also, thanks to Emily and a few others, there's also the Quizlets. I know my co-facilitator has a links for the CRC prep through Quizlet, so I think this one's hers. Yeah, I believe this one is hers, and close to it. And this has 700 terms. And you can break it down if you want to get yourself your own account, or or joining an account and do it like a, what we call a learn. And then you have the option to, you can write it in or set it up like they do. It's a multiple choice quiz. And then you close that. Hold on. Yep. And then matching this to the definition. And then you can practice that way too. So like that, it helps you. Okay, Lizzie, since you brought the CRC flashcards to the website, if you can share those, thank you so much. So let's see, the RAP4 assesses. That's I'm thinking ways. And then you can pick one. So let's just pick this one. It's wrong, so it'll let you know the right one. And you can still keep practicing, you know. Symptoms of type 2 diabetes, et cetera, and you can practice that way. And there's multiple other links too of other Quizlets of other people that have created. So don't reinvent the wheel. Use the resources, okay? Use the resources. This has a lot of them too. So, and then there's the other ones. Now, before the week of the exam, somebody in the Facebook group, his nickname's Michigander, pretty awesome dude, I believe is a veteran, was nice enough to share something that came from the CRC certification website. And I honestly believe this is an excellent study guide to help you along as you prepare for the exam. So if anything that you get here apart from the books, this is free and use this to your advantage, okay? This, if you're a student or if not, most study guides are given to you like this from professors. It lets you know typically what subject areas are assessed and studied more than others. Keep in mind, this is last year, but these do still hold true that you need to know. How to do this, understand the ethical requirements of roles in teaching. It also shares you some of the newer content that they'll talk about, like veterans benefits. They asked me a question about a certain program that I didn't hear about until like the day before I took the exam. It was called the Federal Employment Compensation Act. And it was just by chance that I heard it, but they will ask questions about that. Non-service conventional pension, that's a new one because bulk rehab also works with the federal. So we might not have the material in the book, so you might have to do some research, or if one of you in here that I believe might work within the VA might know more about this and can share. Maybe do a short presentation or give us some resources. This one's new because everybody's now talking about ADAAA, American with Disabilities Amendments Act. Same thing, but there's amendments to it. This here's new. So this, I would encourage you as you learn along, use this as your study guide to kind of help you to research a little bit of these areas and learn it, because not everything in I read books is going to be in here. And I'm sure that come July exam, you might see some questions for these areas, like assessments. As a rehabilitation counselor, you need to understand assessments and how to do these things that you're looking at. And it lets you know if it's a C, it's counseling thought process. If it's an R, it's a rehabilitation process. New mental health screeners, the PHQ-9, GAT-7, non-cognitive tests, and so forth. So, and you'll have that link. When I upload the presentation, you will have this to you. And if you have any other resources that any of you here want to share, you're more than welcome to put it in the chat box. And yes, everybody's going to have access to these PowerPoint slides when it's uploaded, and you can add a slide yourself too. Margaret says she has a whole folder, so that's awesome. And when you guys share this stuff, I like to share it with everybody. I'm not a closed forum thing. I would only be a closed forum person if nobody here doesn't have a master's or is not pursuing a CRC. It would have like no business to be here. Thank you, Margaret. And so with that being mentioned, those are your materials. Now, these are the group norms that we did last time, but I want to hear from the newer people here. So let's see what other additional group norms that we can add. So Everyone as part of this group should be able to contribute in some way, shape, or form. Whether you're sharing folders, whether you're sharing flashcards, whether you're sharing knowledge, expertise, everybody should be able to contribute and share something, okay? Ask questions. I don't know your philosophies are, but my philosophy is this: there's no such thing as a stupid question, and it's only stupid when you don't ask the question. Okay? There's no such thing as a stupid question. It's only stupid if you don't ask it. So ask it. Even if it's something small, ask it. Because even if I don't know the answer, I'm sure somebody here is going to know the answer, or we're going to find the answer for it. So ask. With that, is there any other group norm that anybody else would like to contribute and add, so like that we adhere to it when we do these study sessions? Whether you type it in the box or come off the mic, you're more than willing to. I'd like to hear if you want to add anything else to this group that we want to commit to when we get started.
I guess I missed the part where do you upload these to? Where are you
I have
upload?
So I have a share drive. It's Google. Google's my best friend.
Okay.
So I'm gonna when I finish this presentation, because the one you have is the old one, I'm revamping a new one. I'm gonna put it in the new drive, and when I do this, anybody that I have an email address for that I send this to or gives me their email address, they're gonna be involved in it, and you're gonna get it. And anybody with the link can view it and or potentially edit. Just don't delete. Don't do a mass deletion. Okay. And so like that, you have it. So it's open source. But if you have the link, you can use it. That's why I'm not putting any logos on it. That's why I'm not putting nothing on it there. Did that answer your question?
Thank you.
Definitely. Okay. So with that, I think we should go for it.
Sorry, I was just gonna say, Kennedy, because you're the kindest person ever, so I'm gonna say this for you. Just I guess everyone just of course being respectful of each other and each other's time, and just being your own advocate for things. And what I mean by that is, like, you know, if you have a question, scroll up in the chat. Maybe someone else. I remember last time, can you remember when people kept asking, like 50 people asked for a Zoom link and you were like, please just scroll up just a little bit. It's there. Like, everyone kept asking for the same thing. So, you know, this is all donated time, and Kennedy is so sweet and kind and nice, and he won't say it, so I'm going to say it for him. To just, you know, do your due diligence, I guess, to you know, look into different things to get some of the questions answered. And some of these, you know, some of the people this time around are new, but you know, there's a lot of really good stuff in that chat to look for. And there's like a search feature in the chat that you could search for certain things, and you know, so you're, like you said, you're going to get out what you put into it. So just everyone just respecting the time and the effort that goes into it, because you put a lot into it. So
I would say more likely everybody that was here during last cohort put a lot into it. So thank you, Margaret. But yeah, no, my recommendation is, if you have a separate inbox, one way you can look at that too, if you have a separate inbox folder and you want to say, I think you can do it on Gmail. I'm not too sure about other ones. I know with Outlook you can make a new folder, and then you can put that as CRC. And then anytime an email comes from me or whichever, it'll go straight into there, and you have everything put there. Because I will send out weekly emails of what talked about. I will send out the YouTube links. You will get all that information. I won't restrict anything from that. So, but definitely, I appreciate you sharing that, Margaret. I went ahead and added that to the new norms. Just be respectful and advocate for yourself. So if there is something that you need, look for it. See if somebody talked about it. All of us here are professionals, so network with each other too to help. I know there's one thing that people want to do, is that's maybe do it to make this accommodation for sign language. I would love to see that. I want to learn myself, but we'll see when we get there if we can do that. I think that'd be great to be the next thing too, is when we start doing some of these lectures, to have people who are maybe sign language interpreting. Because if we are really working with disabilities, I see why not we cannot be accommodating, my opinion. So If you feel like you have a talent that you can contribute and share, I would highly encourage you to bring it. It's just going to make you look better, and it could also build your own credibility too. So, but again, thanks, Margaret. All right. Anything else? Any other norm, or I want to say norm, but customs that you want to add to here? And this could be anybody. It doesn't matter. Okay. If you feel like adding something later, just let us know, and we'll like that we adhere to that group norm, because we are a study group. I will put something here, just my little philosophy, and then add it before. First, seek understanding before being understood, and you can agree to disagree agreeably. Now, what do I mean by that last section? To put it in simple terms, each state has their own policies of how to do vocational rehab. Texas Workforce Commission does something completely different to the New York's Workforce Commission, if they have a commission. The state of Georgia is very different to what it is in Kansas, Mississippi, and so forth. So in the sake of the CRC, they're looking for their standards nationally, not what your state says. So when things are being put out according to the Red Book or the CRC, it's because that's what the CRC wants. It's not about what your state does. Because there's one thing between studying to a standard versus the reality. So as you're learning this, remember, you're studying to learn to a standard set out forth by this agency, not by what your state necessarily does. So you can disagree with what the CRC says, but if that's the answer they're looking for, you want to go with that answer. Okay, so just to share that out there and put it out there, because there was some stuff that I saw on the exam that I was like, this does not happen in real life, but that's the answer that they wanted. Okay. All right. So with that, again, I appreciate it. Thank you, Margaret, for sharing. And if anybody else wants to share later, feel free to do it. I see your emails coming in here. So once I get this presentation uploaded, which is the same thing from the last one, it's just going to be more revamped and with more content, everybody's going to get the link, especially the newer people here. But anybody in here and those who aren't here today are going to get the link. So March cohort's already passed. Everybody, I believe the next one is July, correct? Is that when the next one is? Okay, so let's delete this because that's a lie. And then the next one's in October. So I just went on the CRC website and now it's $410 per person. I noticed it. They went up in fees. I don't know if they do. I don't know if they do discounts or not. I don't know. You have to ask them. It used to be $75 for deferment last year. When I did it, I was supposed to take mine in October, but I deferred it for March, and it was $75 for me. But now it's $100 to defer. And now, if you do not pass it the first time, a retest could cost up to $250. And you can go to the CRC website itself. It is posted there. With that, the beautiful thing about the CRC, it's 175 multiple choice questions. There's no fill in the blank. There's no step-by-step process. They're multiple choice. Of that, 25 of them were considered experimental. They may or may not count against you. I don't know how they count it. That's a secret against me, and that's probably for the Pearson VUE and CRC agency to know if they work there. So if you work for them, please do not share it. Unless you have an idea of how they rate and score, then of course give us the idea. So with that, 150 are a mix of counseling and rehabilitation knowledge questions. So you need to score as many right as possible. Don't shoot to ace. I mean, you want to ace, go for it, try it, but don't shoot to ace, shoot to pass. Okay. Think of it like this. For some of you who are military, when you would do what's called an Army physical fitness test, maybe if you're going to a certain school like myself, who used to be airborne, it didn't matter if you did 100 push-ups, 200 sit-ups, and then a 3-mile run in underneath 30 minutes. They just want to know, can you do the 60 push-ups? Can you do the 75 sit-ups? And then can you run the 2 miles within 15 minutes? And if you met that requirement, you passed. So as long as you meet the cutoff, No matter how many were right, you pass. If you do not, you do not pass. And yes, the system will pop up giving you preliminary results saying, yes, you passed, or it might say, here's where you need to improve. It will give you a preliminary. And if you get that preliminary result saying you passed, like me, when I closed my face, I thought I failed, you will know. And within 15 minutes, you'll get a follow-up email saying congratulations. So you will know when you passed. Okay. With that, that pretty much answers that right there. So if you have any questions about that, this comes directly out of the CRC website. This is not rocket science. This comes exactly there as it is. What you see is exactly what you get. Now, with that being mentioned, when we talked about the accommodations earlier in the CRC exam, the registration to do the one for July, the deadline is April 30th. So going back to when somebody asked about the accommodations, when I talked to Jennifer Marsu, who is one of the board members for CRC and does the accommodations, she said to make sure you have your accommodations in no later than the end of April. So if you're still working on it, I would suggest working faster. If you haven't gotten started, time is of the essence, do it now. So like that, when you sit between the 10th or the 18th, your accommodations are ready and good to go. And then if you're going to take it in October, then the opening is going to be May 1st and the deadline is going to be August. So I have this question for everybody here, and I'm going to try to make this even bigger than I can so you can see this. And I asked this question when I first started this group, and I'm going to ask the newer people here now to answer this. And based on what you see here, I'm just going to share with this. What are some of the inferences you can make out of this general statistics of the passing rate? So March 22 of last year had the 273 who tested, 193 passed, resulting in a 71% pass rate. In July to summer of the 187, 126 passed and only 67% passed. And in October, only 130 took it, and out of the 130, 84 passed, resulting in a 65% pass rate. What does that mean for you if you're going to be taking a CRC in July? Anybody? And it doesn't have to be Margaret. If not, it could be Suni, it could be Brianna, it could be Nahal, it could be Crystal. What are your inferences from that?
Make it, the better you do. And I don't know. I mean, 70%, then it keeps going down, down, down. So I guess it's saying, I mean, you need to take it as early as possible, I guess, and definitely not take it. I mean, that's horrible, but that's just the way it looks in my eyes. So.
Okay.
I have to say that it's not, it's not the statistics. I think that we all have an advantage because this is the first study group. So you can't really go by what statistics say, because we have a huge advantage over everybody else who took the test. So I would just say that, be thankful that we're all here together and bounce information off of each other.
Mm-hmm. Appreciate that. And I see from Illusion saying, both Illusion Walker, that it's a difficult test. Okay. Let's
I think
put
you
this.
have to. Oh,
Go
sorry.
ahead. No, Sharon, go for it.
I was just gonna say that, like, for us, for our cohort for school, like, I think we had like similar stats to what you shared, Kennedy, but like, we only had like 2 or 3 people pass out of like 8 to 10, which is horrible for my school. But I think that you can't just rely on the content that was taught in classes. Like, you have to seek out practice tests, Quizlet, all of it. Like, the way that I see it is that, you have to put in a lot of effort, all your pennies worth, that $410, that you're putting into it, to studying material. It's a lot of stuff to study for just 150 questions, right? So you never know what's going to turn up. So you really want to try to be as well-rounded as possible. The pass rates aren't great, which tells me that people aren't preparing in a way that is conducive to the test for whatever reason that is. Like, I know for us, for at our school, we talk about it, like we haven't had class yet since we had off for spring break, and then we had off because it was the week of the CRC. They gave us a week off from, and then our professor was she had something going on, she had to take off. But I'm excited to go to class to talk about it, to be able to say, like, you know, half of my classmates here didn't pass it, and that sucks, and they weren't prepared, and what needs to change, what needs to be different, how should we be discussing, like, we're not prepared clearly to, and that's a shame that after a master's program people aren't prepared, if that's, you know, depending on which section of CRC, like if they're whatever the groups are, if they're master students or not, but people, I guess, aren't preparing in a way that is conducive to what the test is. So, which is scary.
And you know, I think everybody has a point in where they're coming from. One, statistics doesn't define the individual, who they are in their profession. Two, yes, it is a very difficult test. Three, you're right, there are very many variables that after so many years of stuff going into school, we get crammed into us. We don't realize how comprehensive it is. And four, yes, it's not an easy exam to earn. Not only that, we can put it even in the bigger picture here too. We don't know the demographics of this here. And when I'm talking about that, as far as like people who are already working versus students versus tenured workers going in there, you know. We can also include now the COVID pandemic into consideration. Also, accommodations too can be included into these numbers. So there's a lot of variables that are not there. But the big picture is that for the most part, normally those who usually do it in the spring seems to be can be for the most part passing. But really, these numbers don't really spread too far apart from one another. What the key takeaway is this: no matter when you're taking it, and I think Margaret and several others mentioned it, the more you put your time and effort into this, the better the chances you're going to pass. There are different versions of the exam. So with that, out of these, how many people got one version versus the other? There are maybe one version that are going to be harder than the others. Some of them not so much. You might get a version like, oh my God, I do this all the time, I can answer this. Or, oh my gosh, I've never done a single bit of this, I really don't know what I'm answering. I've even heard from people saying it wasn't the big questions that got me, it was the little questions that I thought I knew the answer for, or I should have learned it. I know for myself, but I know helping was a process of elimination, and I double guessed on several of my questions. And I think I got them wrong when I went back to re-answer them. And I think some of them I got them right. So there's a lot of variables, but what this is saying here is that, and this is me, okay? Between spring and summer is usually the best time you want to take the exam, because spring, okay, you got spring break, but you got a lot of students that are graduating. Summer can be a prime time, but if you have a family and you have kids and the kids are off for the summer, you want to go take trips with them places, you want to go do things, but then you're also working at the same time. You got a lot of priorities. And then fall comes along, you got the holidays, you got Thanksgiving, you got Christmas, you got Halloween, you got all these holidays and things coming up. You got a lot of these distractions that come through, you know. And even I appreciate you sharing on the hall. It's even harder for the international students who English is not their first language. You know, I wholeheartedly agree. We have a lot of people who are taking the CRC where English is not their second language, and it might be a little bit more difficult to learn, which I'm experimenting with a tool. I don't know if you follow today's technology, but there's something called Chat GPT, and I heard it could be advantageous to those who do whose English is a second language, because I believe that system, the AI, can maybe clarify and put it in simple terms. I'll share it with you all later if you want. But yeah, so there's a lot of variables to it, but ultimately it's not an easy test. It's easier when you have less distractions to take it, but it gets harder and harder when you have a lot of distractions. So going back to the study habits, it is competitive, and you need to commit to your time and your effort to study, because I don't know about you, but paying close to $400, then the $75 for the textbook, and the $65. That adds up on a lot of money. And then to not pass it, it hurts. It hurts your pocket too, especially some of us college students. So if you're going into this exam, you're taking it in July, take it seriously. Do the best that you can, and more importantly, as we were saying, don't let the passing rate and these numbers define you. Be part of the number over here. Be part of the 193 who passed. Be part of the 126 who passed. Be part of the 84 who passed. Better yet, let's make these numbers bigger, in my opinion. We're only like, I think maybe 20 of us in here. Let's see about the 20 of us in the summer, or 23 of us go from 126 to 146 in the summer. That'll be a big game changer on the CRC itself. So that's my hope. I'll share that with you, Rose. I'll get that out for you here near the end, but I'm gonna not record it yet because I think there's some copyrights to it, but I'll share it. With that though too, your school can play a factor. My school, when I started during the middle of the pandemic, we had 4 professors and we were down to 1 professor teaching us. And at the last half of the semester, last 2 semesters, we got put with a bunch of other professors we never talked with and interacted before until then. And so I didn't have a traditional coursework of lectures. I had to supplement other classes. Like, instead of taking psychiatric rehabilitation, I had to take abnormal human growth and behavior, or normal human behavior. I had to take addictions counseling. I had to take, I'm going to be taking family counseling in the summer. So there were some classes that were not traditional to me that I had to take my coursework. So there is a lot of factors. So as you learn this material and go through it, treat this like it's a school class, in my opinion, because that's what's going to really help you pass. Treat it like if you're a new student, barely starting to learn stuff and get into in the role of things. Any questions, thoughts, or concerns you want to, anybody else want to chime in on this? Oh yeah, it really does test your critical thinking skills. I had a lot of, one of the things I say that helped me, and I say to others, is when we do the study group sessions, when they're not recorded, I always study to the question, never the answer. Because as long as I know what the question's asking, and if I study the material, I'm going to know the answer. More than likely than not. If you study to the answer to the test and you get the same question, but it's slightly reworded, you're going to fail. You're going to miss it. It happens. So, and it will test your critical thinking, because again, there's questions that I didn't even know because I've never done it. I've never heard of. I just wish they only told me what I did, failed, pass, and didn't pass on the questions, but whatever. All right. Any questions before I move on to the next slide? All right, we're almost done. So with the CRC site, this is the accommodations form. This came out of an email that I have, and I will go ahead and forward that email. Jennifer Marceau, she sits on the board. She does the accommodations. So if you need to get a hold of her, this is her email contact information. Let me put it in the chat. If you need the accommodations, start talking to her now. Do not wait, and she will help you. She was very helpful for me. She will help you out. jmarcu@crcc.com. And if you look her up, she is on there, the CRC board website. She is one of the board members. She knows how this works. And that's an old one. I was also inquiring about the deaf and blind, how they do the accommodations. So perhaps she has more resources as far as how they will help with people who are test takers who are blind and or deaf. So that information is for you. You can have it. Okay. But make sure you submit that well in advance. So like that, if you do need those accommodations and you're proofread, you have it. Better go in there with it than without it. Now, in the rep book that I showed you, these are the domains that we teach. The last group we did not talk about much was the research methodology and performance management, because it was really covered by assessment. And the healthcare disability management we didn't talk too much about. And then the other one that we didn't do a lecture for was, oh, where is it? Where is it? I got a lot of questions about healthcare, disability management, especially Social Security. There's another one in here. I can't see to find it right now, and that's just probably my eyes. There's one that talks about the medical and psychosocial aspect of chronic illness and disabilities. That one, if somebody wants to teach it and talk about it, I would encourage you to definitely build a lecture slide for it. But if not, that I believe just can be done through practice. Flashcards practice, because you're going to be talking about multiple sclerosis, autism, spinal cord injuries, traumatic brain injuries, the medical diagnosis. And I didn't put that into a lecture because most of us here already should be working with most people that have one aspects of those, and we should have a comprehensive understanding. But it's better to study to make sure, like if they're talking about cataracts, and you need to know what cataracts do to the eyes versus what glaucoma does, those are things that you need to study on your own. And that's why I didn't do a lecture slide for some of them. Okay. So, but these are the domains that I read book that we'll learn. That study guide, again, I'm going to send out later today, so you have it. And then with that, I think we're going to start, though, from the end, number 12, and then we're going to work our way up to 1. Just because there was some statistical questions on there that they asked me on that I saw that I feel that needs to be addressed. And I'll work on that myself. That's a good book, too, the 6th edition. Helps as well. And then understanding the actual disabilities themselves. So just a little bit of info for this group here. If you all are master's students, PhDs or doctorates, you know your study habits. If you do not know your study habits, I would suggest doing a career explorer, talking to your school counselor, talking to somebody to understand how you learn. But most of us here should know how we learn. We know our study habits best ourselves. Okay. We discuss about the material in the exam. We'll learn to do some, maybe this time practice some actual test taking answers while learning the material, things that we've seen or things that they could ask. And of course, you want to try to get a 50-50 answer, never a 25-75 answer. It always goes down the process of elimination. That helps me out too. Okay, Cassie, thank you. I see that. Thank you, Cassie. I'll update that. And then with that though, then it kind of resets itself. But basically, if there's a particular area in this discipline here that you feel like you can talk about and are an expert on, I please encourage you, share it. Let me know a day you want to do it on the dates that we're going to be studying together. And then that way you can share about it. And I will give you the floor. Everybody who's done it before knows I will give you the floor, and I'll be more than happy to be your slide master for you and moving your slides where you need me to go. Okay. With that, here are your resources. Okay. Here are your resources. Everything straight from the CRC website. How to get certified. A little bit about CV if you wanted to get your CV next, but that's itself different. Get the overview and the functions. So before you go, I want to go back to that link that I gave you. I want to see who answered. Where is it? Hello. Where did my slides go? Did one of my slides just disappear? Okay. One of my slides just disappeared. What a mystery. That's fine. Because I can just go back up here. And that's my Google form that I created. So let me go to Google because Google's my best friend. Let's see. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, I think I'm missing 3 responses, but that's excluding myself. We're kind of a split right now between Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays, okay. And times are 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, that seems to be the majority. Second is this one. So on weekdays, weekends, they want to do the weekends as well. So basically, we're split between Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays. And yes, I'm going to give other people that weren't here today an opportunity to vote. And then by tomorrow, what I put out there, that's the dates that we're going to go with and we're going to commit to. But it seems like Sunday's a winner for us, which is great. And then this one, Wednesdays and Thursdays, we'll see what the tiebreaker is by tomorrow, by the end of tomorrow. And then during weekdays, 6 p.m. MST seems to be the best way to do that. So that's great. We'll stick with that date. And on the weekends, going earlier. And the one good thing about the study group sessions, I can open up the room sooner if you want me to. So you said, hey, can we meet sooner? I'll do it. It's not a problem. So, all right. So thank you so much for contributing to that. With that, it's left intentionally blank. Do you have any questions, thoughts, concern about anything that we discussed on here? I'm going to go ahead and stop recording.